So I'm here tonight with a prolific Seattle artist. And I mean, this person, they've done so much with music, with art, and now with a new web series that I'm really excited about, if for no other reason than because it has an all-star cast of Seattle musicians. This is Danny Denial. Danny, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for inviting me on. Yeah, it's cool to virtually be here.
Been a minute in the making, man. I've been wanting to have you on here for a minute.
For sure. Yeah, no, I it was cool when I was watching the episode with Nicole from Black Ends, and when you mentioned, you were like, Danny, get on the show. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be on the show. That sounds awesome. Let's do it.
That's the first time that's actually worked.
Hey, I mean, this is the shit I love. I love podcasts. I love talking about music. I love, just doing the nerding out, that's the best part of like being involved in any of it, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's fun. Like I look at it as free therapy for all my musician friends,
Oh yeah. And a lot of that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, how have you been?
I mean, it's been a lot of ebb and a lot of flow, maybe more ebb than flow. I feel like a lot of times I feel grateful that I've had a lot of things to keep me busy, because I do feel that a lot of my peers have just sort of been rightfully just kind of frustrated in like a static moment that's kind of been like ongoing. And I've just kind of been finding ways to just stay busy, which I think on the outside, and it does feel good at times, and on the outside I think it looks like things are going well, but in 2020 2021 it's not what it appears to be. Doing things in this way is just so inherently frustrating, as I'm sure you can attest to, that it just makes you question, like, I just want to fucking quit every month or so. Once a month you'll have that moment of just like, I'm done. This is the point where I stop, but then I don't stop. And so the wheel just kind of keeps turning. I've kind of, since quarantine started, I've gone through like already 3 different phases of, I think I was getting ready to release an album before quarantine, and then I went through the whole album live streams of the summer kind of moment in the summer, and then came out of that, and then it just got weird again, and then I got really focused on the web series, and that really kind of got me recentered, and now we're still in it, so it's just like, what's next? What's the year look like? Who knows? Just gonna try to keep doing what I can do, which I think has been self-manifestation has been the key to my own sanity. But at the end of the day, like, we can only control our own world so much. Like, the world is doing what it's doing, and we're powerless. So
it's tricky for me to explain this to people that don't live in Seattle, because it's almost like for bands, musicians, we had this community, that was centered around going out, watching people play music, being at shows, whether it was house shows, whether it was venues, and I'm not going to say that we took it for granted, but it was kind of weird in a way, because it's like, no matter how little like the outside world wanted to pay attention to that or take that seriously, it's like we still had that regardless.
Right.
And then when COVID hit, all that just disappeared in a week.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think about how fragile like the entire infrastructure was, between and that's in so many different ways. Like, that's both like economically, financially, the livelihoods of musicians, and also just kind of like the social infrastructure, like so many people who I haven't heard from in almost a year, and I wonder, like, what are they doing okay, and it's it's kind of baffling when you think about and it's weird, especially this week. I'm starting to see all the people doing that like 1 year ago memories thing of our last shows before starting to happen, and I'm kind of dreading, as the next 2 weeks of it when we get to the very last ones. But yeah, like seeing those memories pop up and reminiscing about like what feels like a different reality, I don't know. Like it's it's almost just like dysphoric is not even enough of a word to describe it. It's just a strange feeling at this point. Like I think everyone missed it for so long, and now it feels like something that almost feels like a vestige of like, you know, one of those alternate, you know, multiverse type shit, like superhero movies that where people are watching, and it feels like it's that level of like, you know, out of mind, out of body, you know, when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was driving on the corner of like 11th and Pike, and I used to drive Uber in Seattle like before all this, and I was driving back. It was like a Saturday night, 1:30 a.m., and I just like paused right there on that corner near where Numos is at, and I'm just thinking to myself like how many times I was driving in that neighborhood picking people up from bars, and at that time of night it would just be a shit show, you know, for lack of a better term, and people falling out and getting into fights, all kinds of crazy stuff on the street, you know, but then I'm driving through on Saturday night and I'm just looking around. It's just like eerie, you know, it's like this ghost town, you know, if it was. Wow.
Yeah. Funny enough, I was filming a video for another band over the weekend. We were at Numos, and I guess, they had a power outage, you know, and I guess no one had been there in so long. And so there was a lot of just kind of wading through this space that was super familiar, but just completely black and you know, I just boxed up and empty and cleared out. And it was just the most depressing, dysphoric moment of just, I don't feel right, you know? Yeah, it's weird, you know? And I think like for me, that's why, it feels like it exacerbated this thing that was happening, you know, like all along, but then it took it, and then in, like you said, overnight, it just like blew it up, you know, like we were losing venues, we were losing corners of the city to be able to like do art in and have shows in. And then I feel like COVID happened, and it was just like, let's just speed this up times 50. 'Cause you know, people, as much as people want to say like, COVID is a universal thing in many ways, but it has, you know, affected different communities in vastly different ways, disproportionately, you know, like, and I think seeing the venues and the spaces and the record stores and all these that are closing down, it's just kind of terrifying to watch that happen in real time. I mean, even like today I was reading about how Everyday Music is closing because they're just like, we can't afford to stay here anymore. I don't know if you read that, the 10th and Pine location.
No, I didn't see that.
I just read it an hour ago. Yeah. So they said it's shutting down in June, and they've been there for like, I guess they'd moved. They were there for like 10 years, but,
still.
Yeah. I mean, it's just weird. I mean, and when we did Bazzooka, and it was connected to a film I shot even just 3-4 years ago, and almost all the locations we shot in that film were gone. And so with Everyday Music, it was like, you're one of the few locations still up. Like, can we, you know, shoot there and have this kind of connected thing going? And so now it's like 4 months later, they're shutting down. It's like, fuck. So yeah, it's weird. It's just, I mean, I guess things like, you know, evolve and devolve, and something else will grow out where that's been demolished. But it's definitely like, I feel like we're in a crossroads, like as a arts community.
So Bazzooka as a series, really the plot line is not that far fetched, is what you're saying.
Basically, I mean, that's the freaky thing is that, like, and obviously it's always like an art imitates life, you know, it's all just, you know, coming from what we're experiencing around us, and then sort of looking forward and being like, it feels like we're going this way, and then 3 years later we went that way. But yeah, I mean, it's scary, but yeah, so it's scary to try to to try to sort of be hopeful, even though like what I'm trying to do with Bazzooka is like instill some sense of hope where it feels unnatural and I guess maybe not what most would expect, but I don't know if that's come across, but that's what I'm trying to go for. It's like, in spite of all the shit, like people are still like finding their little corners, you know, even as they're being ripped out from under us. So other than that, who fucking knows?
Yeah. I mean, as much as I want to talk specifics, because when I went to the virtual premiere of that, I mean, yeah, I saw the first episode on YouTube, and I don't want to give it away for anybody, but if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Go watch the first episode.
Please go watch it.
Out now. But yeah, but there is, for all the, the doomsday and the apocalypse, I mean, that was something that I took from it is people kind of banding together and fighting against that as best they can,
Yeah. I mean, that was why, with that series, as someone asked me, I can't remember on the crew, of if all this crazy shit is going on and they're, trying to, fight their government and all this stuff, like, why are they still bothering being a band? And that was really important to me, that they're like, it's the apocalypse, but they're still trying to play these shows. And in this world, they have this crazy curfew where now, like, all the gigs happen at 3 p.m., and then we're still doing those shows,
actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, the finale we're gonna have to do, just based on how everything's going, we're gonna have pretty much everyone wearing masks because the government surveillance has gotten so severe that they're just no longer
Is this
safe.
A spoiler alert right here?
I mean, it's part of the world building. It's not really.
I can edit this out, but
but I mean, essentially, like, what we're headed towards, like daytime shows of bands wearing masks, to empty rooms because no one comes to a show at 3 p.m. because they got to work in the apocalypse. Yeah, it's all bizarre and meta and terrifying.
No, but I mean, it's beautiful to watch, and it's beautiful to watch you putting in the effort to do that, especially at a time like this where it's like, everybody's kind of afraid to do anything right now, because we don't know, especially for bands, it's understandable because it's like, okay, we're used to like going and trying to sell music at shows and stuff like that, so everybody's like afraid to put out records right now because it's just like, oh, I don't want to like just put that out for the internet or something, but
right.
I always root for the people that, do stuff in spite of all that. And that's why I started this podcast. I'm happy to be talking with you tonight, man.
Yeah, you as well. It's I'm glad you bring that up because it's definitely something that I've sensed from like a lot of other musicians and bands and artists of just like, it's just not a good time. It's just like, what are we going to do with this record we were sitting on for 2 years? And it's like,
send it to me. I'll play it.
There we go. For starters, like it's just, there are outlets, there are things to do. And at the end of the day, like, it's like, I don't know. I've always hated the mentality of like, the fear and the wait, that's why I'm just like, I've been rushing this project. Let's just get it out. Like, there's nothing to wait for. The world could blow up in June. Who knows? I just, and also, like, I think we're also like a product of the times. If you're making music right now, it's like, I always think that it's always a detriment to the art to hold on to it. Like, I think that's something that, and I don't want to critique or criticize anyone else's process, but I just know that's like a lot of friends of mine who will like work so hard on the record and then just hold it. And then I'll talk to them like 6 months later, 8 months later, a year later, like, what's going on with that record? Like, I just, just trying to talk to some labels or trying to see if, and it's just like, like, and that's a lot of people that I just, who I've heard the mixes and I've heard the masters, and it's just like, months and years go by, and it's just like, no, like, I don't know. That's like a disservice to the whole thing. Just like, don't wait for shit. Just do it. I don't know. I'm glad I didn't wait because I feel like if I think about it, like, I don't know. To some people, I think I put out maybe too much stuff in a short period of time. But when I think back on it, I'm really glad that I released like my first record when I did like 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, because if I held on to it, around that period, because if I held on to it even until 2018, that would have no longer represented the period of time that I was in. It was like, I've changed so much that I would have had to discard anything that I've held on to because they were always, as an artist, I feel like I just changed so much like through each project. And, I feel like people end up with a lot of shit in the vault that way. So I just feel like 2020, like, or 2021 now, like we shouldn't let it kind of hold us back in that way and be this kind of chokehold on this album cycle or whatever you want to call it.
Now forget that. That's 20 years ago.
Right. Because the rules were already irrelevant before this happened, right? Like, it was, Unless
I always joke that like rock bands are having to figure out the stuff that like SoundCloud rappers and pop stars have known forever because they can't go play live. They can't go play live in like some 200 person club. That's not what they do, you know? So it's like singles, you know, put that out, give it time, give it a visual presentation, video, however you want to look at that, you know, and then try to build on it from there, you know, and rock bands have this sort of emotional attachment to like albums or long form kind of stuff in that way, you know?
Which, I mean, you know, it's interesting. Like, there are also, with that being said, there are those bands that just love playing shows, and that's really what they're about. And then they only have like 6 songs that they've like, you know, and it's just, and it's like, which is its own kind of, that definitely actually fits a lot of the Seattle vibe a lot of the times. Like it's more about that experience than like having a, you know, discography and that, you know, having stuff on streaming and all that kind of stuff. But
because you connect with community much quicker than, you know, that way. When you're actually getting like, you're just going out and playing live, you're actually connecting with people around you. And when you're just sort of making music for the internet, it can feel a little abstract in that way, you know, where it's like
totally
feels like pouring a glass of water into the ocean almost. Something like that.
Absolutely. Like I think, and I think that's where the songwriter or our artist relationship to the song or the songs, you know, or the album, I think that's kind of where you, I don't know. I feel like for me, I feel like I identify with my own songs in a very kind of directed, like storytelling way, where it's all, I just write in a way where it's like, this is a song to go on this album, and that's a chapter of that book. And I don't think that a lot of bands, especially like Seattle bands, are really geared that way, which I think is really cool a lot of times. And I kind of wish I could be more that way, because that's the reason why like some of my favorite Seattle bands can play that song they wrote 6 years ago, and it's like every much more like still true to the way they're singing it. Whereas for me, I'm like, no, that was so 2016, you know? I don't know. Like, it's just like, it's very, I don't know. Sometimes I think I take it too personally.
That's one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you, though, because I mean, even though I tend to focus on bands with this podcast, I mean, you're a solo artist, but you have a foot in kind of both worlds. I mean, you've made music electronically, you know, but you've also had like live bands performing on your records, members of Dirty Dirty, Razor Clam, and bands like that. I'm curious, like when you first started out as an artist, like how did you envision yourself back then versus how you've evolved over the last 4 years?
Very far from what I envisioned. Well, because I didn't have any sense of like confidence that I could do it at all. So to even get to this point of like having 2 bands even is crazy to me. Because I really like, I always loved music growing up. Like I always really loved, I really always loved lyrics, especially. I was just really big into that. And as a younger kid who thought I was going to be a filmmaker, like, you know, going, you know, just do the LA movie thing. I always felt filmmakers that used music a lot as ways to tell the story. And so, but like secretly, like I totally did like record like, you know, GarageBand or no, the thing earlier than GarageBand, one of those really shitty softwares.
Cool Edit Pro, Adobe Audition or something.
Yeah,
like
one of those, like Audition or.
We had the bootleg version when my friend was in high school. You know, that's how we got started, man.
Oh yeah.
Gens.
Oh yeah, like
back in those days, man.
Back in those days, I vaguely remember this. Like I would definitely like. I literally record in my closet in my room so like no one could hear. And mostly I would get like, I'd go to those sites that like have a bunch of like samples and shit and like make, actually I distinctly remember when Nine Inch Nails did a thing for their Survivalism record, and they released all the stems and told people to remix it. I took all their stems and made like a bunch of, that was one of the first times I think I ever did stuff with anything.
Is that still out there somewhere? Did you ever like put that on SoundCloud or anything?
Oh, what I did with it? Absolutely fucking not. No. I think I made a MySpace in the times when MySpace was dying, but I definitely took it down, thankfully, and everything's scrubbed. So there's no traces of anything. But yeah, like I definitely did like as a like a side thing, you know, like I would do that, but I never took myself seriously, and I never thought I would ever be like someone that did this for real. So then I kind of just like moved on and, you know, did school and then went to LA and try to do film stuff. And then it made me just very miserable, and hated participating in that whole kind of scene and environment. It just like really wasn't me. And then so yeah, like I think through that time I was writing a lot of lyrics about just like my state of being and what was going on. I'd always lacked the musical side of. I was more of like a lyricist, and so I'd write all these lyrics but wouldn't have any music. Because even when I was in high school, I think I got myself to learn a song on the guitar, but I never really took it further than that. So basically, I think the turning point for me was like right before I moved to Seattle. I started just like self-teaching myself guitar, and and just like said, okay, let me just do like a thing in my bedroom. And then over the course of like a year or so, I decided I was gonna go just move to Seattle, ghost everybody I know, like stop talking to everyone, delete all my social media pages, you know, like make up some last name and just go to Seattle. It was very much like the quintessential, like someone needed a fresh start. So they just, got a new haircut, dyed their hair, and moved to Seattle and became a disappointment to their parents. So, half kidding. So like I never envisioned any of it. I just thought I'm going to go to Seattle and just like, you know, just fuck around and play open mics and get, maybe book some shows. And then it all really just happened really fast, you know, once I just started meeting people around. I mean, like, I feel like I came in a little too hot, maybe, you know. I definitely got a sense of like, who the fuck are you for a while. It was just very like, you know, sure. Which, you know, like in retrospect, I get it. Like it's just some kid from LA. It was just like, let me play at the fucking, you know, whatever. Like, let me play at the Comet Tavern or Lo-Fi or whatever. And
I always hate that pretension though. It's like, oh, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? You're playing at Sunset, dude.
Right. I mean, it's like, which was how I felt at the time. I'm like, fuck you guys. Like, I had like all this chip in my shoulder. Like, fuck you guys. You suck. Like, I'll do it better than you. But there was, no
disrespect to Sunset when I say that too. Shout out to Lee, but.
But no, it's true though. Like you don't own this block, you know, you don't own this venue, you know, you don't own this scene. It's I go back and forth on it because I get now that like Seattle is just so like tight knit, and that when I got to really know the backstories of like a lot of my peers, I'm like, oh, okay, they've been here for like ever. Oh, okay, like you know, like when I like talking with Eva and Cedric about like they're like, you know, like they've been like, this is like their home, you know? And so there was a lot of like, okay, like who the fuck is this person, you know? Which I did not take kindly to at first. But at the same time, I had a lot to learn too, because I was also really green, you know. It wasn't like I came to Seattle as this like proficient, you know, instrumentalist. I just showed up like, I can hardly play guitar. I just like to scream a lot. So then it just became a lot of like, how can I get people to play music with me? How can I get people to like book me? And that part kind of went pretty quick. And then I feel like I sort of just like did it. Like I didn't really like wait to get better at anything, or I didn't wait to
go for it, man. Punk rock, dude.
Right. So like, and it's funny because when I first started, I had this huge, as I became more like aware of my own self and like the community, I started to get really self-conscious about like, I hate this, like, okay, like I created this like stage name and I already did so much stuff with it, but like solo artists aren't a thing here. This is so embarrassing. Like, you know, it's just, you know, like, and I was playing with my two really good friends, two of my best friends since living here, as my backing band. And it was just like, but they were like, it was like, you know, the Danny Denial thing. I was like, this is so cheesy. I hate this, you know, and I got really self-conscious and I thought it was horrible. And so I took a step away from it for a little while, and then I thought, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to make a real band. So that's
Okay.
how Dark Smith kind of got started with my other band. And that was, which truly does feel like being in a band. It's like the songs are all 4 of ours. Kind of that thing I was telling you about the songs being less personal, but you have that attachment to them. Like, it's a different vibe. It's not so just ripping up pages of your diary. It's a little bit more methodical and collaborative, and creating a very specific kind of mood. But like over the course of even just doing that, I was like, well, there's still a lot of stuff in the solo project that was very valid that people were responding to, that just because I was, in my own imposter syndrome, so then I continued doing albums with that. And so I just kind of just juggled both for a while. And yeah, I just sort of like got over my own bullshit, self-deprecating ego shit, and just said, well, like, it doesn't matter, like I'm never going to be a trained multi-instrumentalist, self-producing, whiz. But I feel like I know the things that I do know. So I just, and then I collaborate to make up those differences. And then, and you realize when I look at people that I actually like and really respect, it's like, oh, a lot of people are like that. It's not this thing where it's, that's how like art works, with the exception of the people who literally can do everything, because I do know those people too. But
you put different people together, and the sum hopefully is greater than its parts, and that's what being in a band is all about, man.
Right.
So
that's the beauty of it,
Let's take a pause on that, and let's listen to a couple records, and we'll be back here in a minute with an encore.
I've been running for so long, I can't find my bed. Separated from my soul, surviving on shreds. Everybody wants to know what's swimming in my head. The plague that fears your fake ass tears, 'cause black is dead. Black is dead. Black is dead. So if I'm scaring you now, if I'm scaring you now, then get the fuck out of the way. If we're scaring you now, if we're scaring you now, this is how we feel every day. This is how we feel every day. And I come home to scraps for meals, and no one's getting fed. The businessmen are in the sky, watching overhead. The city used to be alive, and now it's bleeding red. But you can't even see it, no, 'cause black is dead. Black is dead. Black is dead. So if I'm scaring you now, if I'm scaring you now, then get the fuck out of the way. If we're scaring you now,
said, fine, I'll find another country, another place to shed some skin. This existentialist must exit. I'm just as fucked in every continent.
Yeah, funny enough, Maurice was one of the first people that recorded me at Columbia City when they were still owning it. Back, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I know you had Kurt Roy on recently.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of my first album.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I met him when I was newer to Seattle too. So we did that in 2016.
Small world,
together.
man.
Yeah.
He was probably new out here at the time too, man.
He was,
moved
yeah.
out
He
here
was
from
pretty
Michigan, man.
Yeah, his thing was called Heart Gold Studios at that time, and we fucked around with a lot of he was starting out as Telemics, and we did it was fun. Those are just like innocent times of just like, how can I make songs? You know, I didn't even have the backing band together yet, so you know, I did some songs with just him, and then I got the band together as we were doing that, and then so that album is all over the place. But yeah.
Who are some of the other bands that you miss in Seattle that you first started playing with, or that you've played shows with over the years?
I mean, yeah, I really miss I always miss like the Black Tones, Dirty, like a Rat Queen, like all of my friends, like those are. But there were also some really cool bands that were getting going before COVID hit that I was really I was excited to see more of, like Rachel's Children and Power Bleeder and Guaiva's new project Ex Florist and a lot of the bands that are actually on the Bazzooka soundtrack, actually, Beverly Crusher and Black Ends. Always Loved Doing Normal was up there somewhere, who's in LA now. And then it's been kind of weird, like seeing how some bands I think we're gonna come back, but other bands are gonna be really different and like maybe like a different kind of iteration. But I mean, the cool thing about Bazzooka is though, it was kind of my way of sort of like getting to like, you know, like make my own lineup basically of just like, all right, let's just like get everyone all together, which was really cool, you know, and people like, you know, Shayna and Black Ends and others have been actually staying really busy and doing a lot through the last year, and getting to like collab with all these folks some who I've played shows with, some who I haven't. Yeah, it's cool. There's something that I do really miss though, just about the element of like getting to watch someone's show and then be like, oh, that was really awesome. And then kind of get that back, like that kind of, you know, that there's something about that. You know, when we shot for Bazzooka at the Central, we had a bunch of people coming in and doing songs as the end credits songs.
Yeah.
And like, you know, watching them and being like, oh, that was amazing, you know, and having that moment that we forgot what that moment was of when someone finishes performing and you just get to like bask a little bit, you know?
Yeah. You know, especially when everybody's nicely buzzed, and it doesn't have to be off substances either. You know, it could be just, you know, you just saw like, you know, 10 songs back to back and everybody's like sweating and moving around, dancing, having a good time.
Totally.
Man. And it's an adrenaline high too.
It is.
You know?
And it's like, it's not like anything else really. It's and a lot of times it's you know, it's chaotic, and like you said, some people are drunk, and it's, you know, really, really sweaty. But that's kind of part of the allure of the kind of the atmosphere of it, and just sort of being in, you know, it's almost like a film scene. The one in my head, because it's so far away from me right now. But you know, I know that when we played, when me and my lineup in the summer did all those live stream shows we did, it was cool, and it was like getting to sort of have a little bit of that again, but it didn't feel the same. It was just not the same, like catharsis. Like it was like we finished our set and it's like, okay, just break down and let's go and let's leave, you know? And there's like a little bit, the closest we got to it was me and Beverly Crusher. We did a Grounded stream in the summer, and
I remember that one.
That was almost like you know, it was
that was as close as you can get, because that was back when they were still doing it on the courtyard of that one building, so it was outdoors.
Right.
Yeah, it was outdoors, so they could be. I'm not going to say they were loose or anything, but they could be a little more slack as far as having like one or two people that weren't crew, you know, just hanging out on the sides or something like that. God, and it was like all summer. I was just telling people like, hey, if you want to go to a show that bad, man, go volunteer for a live stream. You know?
Right.
I'll carry cases. I'll roll up cables, like whatever you want me to do. Just, you know.
Because that's the thing. It's like, I mean, that I commend them for that. I mean, they followed their protocol, but it was a warm, buzzy energy, you know. And it's like a lot of the streams didn't feel that way. Like, I mean, playing the high dives, you know, that was just like, oh my God, when can I go home? Like, I don't know, you know, it's.
I played the high dive stream when I filled in with peyote too. I know what you mean.
It's just like, I feel like, you know, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's you feel kind of stilted. You feel it's awkward. It's just, you know, and it's not a knock on anyone, because at the end of the day,
absolutely not. Yeah,
I've kind of like made, you know, I preface everything with like, everyone's trying, so I gotta like give them that. But I think that
absolutely,
it's at the same time, you know, you can't pretend like it's not an uphill battle, and it's not frustrating. A lot of the trials and errors are fucking frustrating to like sort of having to try to ride. But I mean, I think I don't know what the future of shows looks like. I know for me, doing the live stream experience, I feel like there was a lot of it that was really lacking for me, with the exception of that Grounded show. And I mean, honestly, and I posted about this on Facebook at the time, so I mean, I'll, you know, and this is not on any knock on them, but like we did the Folsom Street Fair virtual, and we originally were talking about going there before pre-COVID, and then obviously post-COVID, it was like, let's do it virtually. Yeah. But like doing that, we could choose which venue we wanted to do it at. So I reached out to the Timber Room, and it just became a nightmare. It was just like, between all of the complications in an artist having to produce their own set for a stream that they're being paid, like, you know, that they're getting paid for, but it's like at the end of the day, do your production costs start to outweigh your fee?
Yeah.
And it was a fucking nightmare. And after that, I was just like, I really just don't want to do, that was like the 6th or 7th stream of the summer. And I was just like, I think I've done enough. I think we've like promoted the album. I feel good. Let's just, I'm not going to lose any money over these streams. Like, I'm not about to backpedal and like, you know, get into this whole, like, I don't know. I've always been, I don't know. For me, like, music was never about the money, but I also have always felt like I am, and I have friends who've like taken out loans and like sank their shit in their projects, which, to be fair, I've done that with a film once too, but films are different and there's really no way around that. With music, it's like music should not like bankrupt you. That's crazy. So
yeah, there is like a limit to that. It's like, okay, yeah, we know we're not trying to get rich, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not trying to go bankrupt over this either. You know what I mean? So
exactly, you know, and I think that's the line that I kind of draw. And yeah, like COVID happened at a really precarious time for me as a musician, because as someone who a few years ago, I mean, I never really came into it looking to make money. I wasn't just like, oh, this is, I want to be rich, so I'll start playing music, you know, locally.
Seattle.
Like, yeah, in Seattle. But like, you know, like over the course of like, by the end of 2018 and like 2018, 2019, I feel like, you know, I was finding ways to like navigate like how to make this sustainable, you know, like I was, and it kind of was turning into a pretty good steady model for me. And then COVID happens, you know, right when I kind of get this, you know, really for the first time, like, feeling comfortably financially secure doing music, which was like, took 6 years to get, and then kind of like, you know, then just kind of lost it. But, you know, ebb and flows.
That was always, I said, like the toughest position to be in. It's like, you know, the worst position was not the person that just did a gig here and there for the fun of it and had a day job, or the, you know, the rock star that had tens of thousands of dollars in the bank. The worst was like the artist that like they're just now gaining like a little bit of traction.
Right. That's
like you are. I always joke, it's like you put in your 2 week notice already, and then it's like, you know, all this happens like right as you're just supposed to be like going full time.
Well, I mean, that's the like, thing. It's like, and I know that it's not cool to like care about like the you know, success or the finances of it, which I get, because but
you've never cared what was cool anyway.
Right.
That's what
like,
I respect
fuck it,
about you. So,
like, at the end of the day, like, I don't want to be like on the radio, but if I could, you know, pay all my bills with this shit, that'd be kind of cool. But you know, like, you know, me and Nazami, my drummer, in currently both bands actually, just because I only like playing with her when she drums. We talk about this a lot, so I'm sure she'd be okay with me saying this. But like, you know, we've always talked about how like it's so frustrating, because it's like, you know, you get these upsells, or you think, oh, it's going somewhere, because when we started Darksmith, she was the one that was like, oh, there's an intern at Sub Pop who I'm going to reach out to them. And it was very just like, we're going to get signed and we're going to get on. And I'm like, Nazami, we are electronic, like goth, like industrial, like grunt, what, like no one's signing that. Like,
so Sub Pop will be right on it. Basically, Sub Pop will be right on it.
Right. Like we need to have like
put out what was that band? Okay, sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent, but yeah.
No, but like, you know, it's
they signed So Pitted. It was like,
they did, yeah. I mean, but that's a good point. It's you know, like there's very few Sub Pops though, even there. You know what I mean? It's like like it's kind of, that's kind of the intersection of like you know, that level of a label, and then the indies that are sort of big enough to give you things like advances and put you on tour. So like, yeah, it's funny. Like we had that back and forth of like, okay, like we'll see where this goes. And I think, I mean, to be honest, I was really surprised by, cause to me, like I thought with my solo stuff, to be totally honest with you, the reason I really wanted to do a band was because with the solo stuff, I had started getting like some online stuff and some like magazines in different places. It was very like the scattered response that wasn't in Seattle. It was like these outlets that were just like very random in Toronto, New York, and London. I got a lot of stuff in London. And then I just felt like I'm not getting any, like, Seattle just isn't like, okay, because I'm a solo artist and this is just like total cheese balls. Like, let me just make a like legit Seattle band. And
well, I mean, Jimi Hendrix had to go to England or whatever
Right,
to pop off
to
too, even though
legitimize.
he's in Seattle. It's
Oh,
like,
totally.
you know, it's, yeah.
but it's funny though, because it's like with Darksmith, I just thought this is gonna be the homegrown, like, Seattle, like, we just play the dive bars.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, in 2019 there was like the summer where we were on that NPR thing, and then we were on, like, it was just all this stuff happened, and I'm just like, oh guys, this is way further than I was planning for this. Like, we were just gonna be like the weird, dark, kind of ugly child that people in Seattle like. That's, you know, but no one else. But no, it's, you can't control that shit. Like, you can't, like, it's completely out of your hands. And that's why for me at this point, I'm just kind of like, like, it's not calculatable. You can't make a thing and say it's going to be this. Like, you make it and you package it however you want, and you tell the story you want to tell. But from there, like, it's up to the collective hive mind to ignore it or say it's great or say it sucks. You know, and I think for me, the cool thing about being a part of a band was getting to experience everyone else's thoughts and feelings, because I became very detached from my own ambition. Like, pretty much ever since I moved to Seattle, I came to Seattle with a lot of ambition, and then I sort of just was like, I don't care about that stuff. And then, you know, like, and then talking to Nazami, and she's just like, no, like, you know, we got 3 years or bust, you know, it's like, and then not really, Nazami, I'm kidding. You never said that. She never said that. But,
we can edit that part out. But, you know.
But, you know, but it's cool to, like, have that, but we kind of went through it together, and,
sure.
You know, like, we did it in studio that got kind of shredded, and it was just like, ooh, it was really rough. But to me, I was like, well, it's kind of cool that we can at least, like, make jokes about this as a band, you know? Because when I got shredded for a solo video, it just felt like shit. Like, everyone was just, you know, just you know, trolling me. But yeah, I don't know. It's like success and that shit, and trying to, like, make it and be successful. Like, for me, I think my ambitions end at, it would be cool to pay the bills, which,
sure,
to be honest, like, I really felt like, you know, at the end of 2019, I was, like, really getting there. I was, like, kind of like, you know, there'd be some months there was, like, a little bit of, you know, there'd be, like, the teeter-totter, you know, but it's like, if I could get this stabilized enough, like, I'd be happy with this. So, like, that's kind of it really for me. But, you know, I don't think the starving artist motif is, like, particularly glamorous or cute. I think some people think it's, like, a lot cooler than it is. I'm like,
It's glamorous to an outsider. Yeah. It's not so fun when you're actually having to live it, but
ironically, I think some artists also glamorize it. Like, I think that it's,
yeah.
I think it's weird. I'm like,
but it's rarely the artists themselves. It's usually people that are kind of, like, in orbit of it, you know, and just kind of, you know, maybe they idolize that or something like that, but they're just not in it for whatever reason, you know.
Right. It's like, this doesn't really quite look how you think it's going to in your head.
If success is getting everything you want, happiness is actually wanting everything you get, and they're two very different things, you know.
I like that. You know, yeah, that's, I'm gonna steal that at some point. Did you come? Is that yours? Is that
no?
Okay,
That was actually a Warren Buffett quote. You know.
Oh, okay, it's kind of a surprise. I will say though, you know, I've always used this as my excuse for, like, being the bottom line oriented person of just gotta pay the bills, because I really want to make films, and those are expensive.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm just like, if I could get enough money to, like, do more film projects,
to actually be able to invest in your ideas is the thing,
right? I'm not
that's
trying
it,
to
without having to, like, you know, go run and do a big crowdfunder, you know, every time you want to do, like, literally anything.
Right. Like, that's pretty much the extent of my ambition there, is, like, I don't want to go broke to make a movie. So if my art can sustain itself, then, like, we're good. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to do. And like, I've definitely, I don't know. I care about my work, and it means a lot to me, but it's like, I also, I feel like I'm past the point of like, yeah, again, bankrupting myself. I'm still paying off a credit card for my first feature film. So like, it's just like not doing that again. I'm sorry. Like I'm just not. So
I always love when I get those free credit card offers in the mail and they don't realize they're sending them to a musician. I'm like, I think I'll take you up on that. Thank you.
oh yeah. No, give
Thank
that
you for
to me.
contacting
What's
me.
my limit? Yeah. I'll figure this out in 3 albums, you know, when I've put all that down on plastic.
No, what was it? No interest for 2 years or something. I'm like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I did that one. That's why it's still with me. Yeah.
Get the airline miles though.
You know, I was dumb. I should have done a travel card. That's what I should have done. Because I wasn't thinking like very versatile. Like I was thinking about like just shooting this film, but I didn't think to myself, well, I'm
Yeah.
also trying to go on tour later this year and I'm trying like it's just I could have but
I mean, it's you live and you learn, man.
right, right. Learning moment.
That's all it is. That's all it is, man. So, Danny, again, I appreciate you taking the time to come on here and talk tonight. And anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Well, yeah, I guess, I want to say that, I think there's just a lot of really great talent in Seattle. And the one more thing I'll say about Bazzooka is that, that I feel like a lot of this summer there was, because this is a big reason I wanted to do the series and have a soundtrack and be really music oriented, because I felt like there was a lot of like discourse about like the idea of like Black artists in a community. And I think that a lot of times that people just kind of have their list, like check these people out as Bandcamp Friday, but even, you see the power of Bandcamp Friday is even just like dull and dull and dull. And like, what even is it now? But I think for me, it's like, we need to like be, I don't know. I think we just need more platforms. Like we need more things, to connect people to the music and to these artists. So, I think for me, like right now, I'm much more like in a place of really wanting to signal boost kind of the amazing stuff that's going out. I know Maya Marie's EP just dropped today, and her song's actually going to be in our next episode off that EP.
Okay.
But like, yeah, I hope that people can at least, if anything can come out of this project, I hope that people can sort of just get exposed and directly support other artists. Because yeah, I think at the end of the day, like I think I kind of landed on, well, no one else is really going to look out for us. So we've got to just sort of do it for each other. And I think it weirdly enough, it's ironic that this is coming from me, who was very just like, la-di-da-di-da, I don't, give a shit about anybody. But I think I accidentally found like a groundswell of just so many great people. You mentioned a couple earlier. And I don't know, I just think that we're just trying to get creative, find more ways to get Seattle kind of more out into the consciousness. Because sometimes I think with Seattle, we get really like bubbled up, and we kind of like we seal on ourselves, and then we just sort of it just becomes this like that one Stephen King series, Under the Dome. We're all just like living in this kind of this secluded island. But I don't know. I think my goal going forward right now is just to get just to signal boost Seattle out forward and out there. So with that being said, everyone just share and post Bazzooka stuff, because we'll have a soundtrack come out, and that's what I'm really stoked on, honestly. I got almost all of the like the clearances for everybody lined off, but we're gonna do a benefit for King County Equity Now, because I also really want it to go back to something that's trying to invest in our community. So
yes,
I don't know. That's just the thing. I mean, I feel like if I'm always like open to ideas too. Like I'm just trying to find ways to connect to community. That's not just like virtue signaling. That's just something that's actually impactful. And like I may be short-sighted, and this all may not be that, but I'm just trying different things and seeing what sticks. So
I don't want to drag it on too much, but one thing I will add with the new Raised on Rhythm radio series, that's my goal with that, is to really connect people to the music.
Absolutely.
First and foremost in that way. So as long as I'm doing those radio segments and they're getting out on the Spotify, you've got at least one radio station that'll play your shit.
That's the thing. And I love that you're on Spotify. We talked about this, but I love that you're on Spotify because, you know, it's kind of like that catch-all to get people in and then kind of funnel them towards, like you said, the Bandcamp links, because that's where artists can actually make the money. But, you know, getting through that funnel is the hardest part. And Spotify, unfortunately, is sometimes a necessary evil to kind of make that align, you know, because people don't just go to Bandcamp, you know. Maybe on Bandcamp Fridays in the earliest days, I think we saw people going to Bandcamp, but that didn't last. So,
well, Spotify's the better discovery tool,
right?
But Bandcamp is where people can actually connect with the bands and connect with the artists and actually buy the download. And again, you can pay more than you have to if you want, you know, just out of love. And that's the beauty of Bandcamp with that as a medium. So, you know, it's driven me nuts for years because it feels like for the last 15 years, everything I've been told as a musician, as a band is, you know, oh, you got to do more with MySpace, or you got to figure out how to do more with Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, all these platforms that are all about content, you know, and content is cool. But the thing about creating content is it's a full-time job on top of your full-time job of making good music or film, whatever it is, on top of your full-time job of working a day job or whatever to sustain that. You know, and at a point, I'm just like, man, we got to redo this. We need something else.
We need something else.
And,
it's not.
And I think maybe we had like the luxury to sort of ignore that for years because we still had live shows, you know, so we didn't really give that any never mind. But once COVID hit, it forced us to really reckon with that.
Right. And the internet also has kind of been, the internet's become a different place too. Like I feel like, you know, even in the days of like the MySpace, which, you know, and maybe I'm romanticizing it because I didn't get to really do, you know, but I remember having a MySpace and finding so many bands, but like as a user, I swear to you, I found so many bands on MySpace than I would ever find on Facebook, you know, or Twitter.
Yeah, because you could have a profile song,
right?
You know,
and then you look at your friends' profile
now you've got me reminiscing on all that, man. It's like we had the profile songs, and like you could post 4 songs up. Yeah, if you're a band, right there, just go to that. And I'm like, man, we didn't realize how good we had it.
Right, and it's like, and I recognize that I'm romanticizing it more than it really was. I realize that, but when you compare it like per capita to like what Discovery is on the main social medias now, you know, especially when you're looking at like bands have to like pay for ads now, you know, on Instagram and stuff, and it's just like, and even that is just like, you know, I'll see like a friend's band paying for an ad, and I'm like, why is Instagram promoting it to me? I already love this band, like I already follow them. And it's fucked. Like, that's why I don't even, like, I haven't done a paid ad in 3 or 4 years because it's bullshit.
Forget that.
And like, I feel you. Like, there needs to be an upheaval in the way that, artists can use social media, because right now the odds have been, the deck's been stacked, and we're all just sort of like trying to like adapt to it. But it's a system that you were not meant to adapt to. You're meant to just sort of like lay down and just accept that you posted a Facebook post that gets like 6 likes, even when you have like 5,000 followers. Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? So,
well, content is different from art. And it's like, to get out through the social media ecosystem, again, you know, content is one thing. And if you're trying to be just a full-time influencer or something, that's a little bit different, you know. But if you're trying to like do that on top of making the music, it's like, man, like the content to me is a whole unnecessary layer that's in there that doesn't have to be. Like, we need more platforms to where people are actually listening to music.
Right. Because I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, that's an incredible point, because even if you look at things like Instagram or Facebook with artist pages, right? Like, $200 says that an artist's most liked photo or most engaged thing is just like a photograph of them that has nothing to do with the art. It's just like,
literally,
you know,
yes.
And you know, when they post a stream like to their, you know, Spotify or their Bandcamp, that's gonna be the thing that has like 3 likes on it, you know, because no one actually went to it.
Yeah.
So that's
because if you're on Facebook or if you're on Instagram and you're scrolling, it's probably not because you're trying to engage with some, you know, long form piece of content necessarily. You just, you know, you want a meme, you want like a funny, you know, thing to read and go, haha, and then, keep scrolling on or something like that. And I don't know. I feel like TikTok for me was just like that was the moment when I was just like, man, this is going to hell. We got to figure something out.
Well, and that's the thing. And I will say, like, my personal theory is it all got fucked. It all got really fucked when the Facebook and the Google and the YouTube conglomerates kind of had that sync division. And all of a sudden, when you post a music video from YouTube on Facebook, remember back in the day, you could play it in Facebook. You can press play and watch it. Now,
but then Zuckerberg didn't want you stealing his traffic, so now he's disabled, all the YouTube links and stuff like that.
And they wanted you to use Facebook video, right? And it was this whole kind of like, and I think that was where people got fucked, because then like, actual traffic going to the thing you're trying to get people to click, it's not going to happen.
And I feel like even deeper than all that, it's like, again, if you look at what happened to FM radio in the last 20 years, where that basically just died, and we kind of let it die. But again, that was a medium for music. And it's like, we sort of let it die because artists, let's be real, most independent artists didn't stand a chance in hell of ever getting played on a commercial FM station, so they just kind of gave up on it. But we lost this medium that was like centered around records, music, and discovery and all that stuff, man. So to me, it's like, I guess, again, not to toot my own horn, but what I'm trying to bring back with the radio series is like a medium for that, and just make it all Seattle bands, and make it like the, whatever, not, this thing where I'm getting sent records by labels or something. No, forget that. Like where I'm actually like just going and taking, Seattle bands records, reaching out to them and be like, hey, is it cool if I play this song? Like I really dig your track. Like in theory, the stuff that a DJ is supposed to do,
right?
But that doesn't always happen at commercial radio. They just play a Green Day song from like 20 years ago or whatever.
It like, just doesn't make any sense. Like that's the thing about the Spotify playlist that gets me too. It's just like, I've only ever been put on 2 like editorial playlists, and I look at it and I'm like, this is bullshit. Because first of all, it's like me, maybe 2 other people that I think they saw on a list that like either AP did or Afro, like one of those did. And they throw him in with a bunch, and I don't mean just 3 or 4, but like a bunch of Machine Gun Kelly songs and a bunch of, it's just like an overload of all of the shit you see on top 40 mainstream radio, and then 5 picking. Oh yeah, like I was put on the rock list. Like, and I'm just dude. This is bullshit. And I was taken off only a few weeks later. But it's like, I looked at it and I'm like, this is dumb. This is really dumb. Like, who are you helping here? And it's like, maybe if
the algorithm's got it wrong, man.
Maybe if they like asked other artists, if they're like, hey, we like what you're doing. Do you want to curate an art playlist? I could give you like 100 bands that you have never like spotlighted, instead of Machine Gun Kelly, who already is selling millions of records. Like, you don't need to put him on the radar like playlist. Like, it's not needed.
Like, up and coming, right?
God, it's just, it's fucked. Like, I just think, it's that whole thing of there's only room for 4 people in the room. It's just that room's shrinking, and it's just like it's ridiculous. Like, our platforms are infinite, so shouldn't there be more room for people? Like Spotify has millions of playlists, so like shouldn't there be more diversity on them? What's happening here? It's just bizarre world. No, but thank you for doing what you're doing though, because I think what we need is like we need more places where people can go and discover more. And I think using Spotify as that a platform is a smart move. And I think we just have to outsmart the algorithms here. That's the
I will make the micro pennies on Spotify so the bands can make their dollars on Bandcamp. How about that?
That's the sacrifice. That's an honorable sacrifice. And eventually, like, I think, like, I think there's so many things so many places you can take it. And that's why I love podcasts, because it's like you can go with the more music format. You can do stuff like this. You can do like story time. I don't know, at some point, like, I think I
hesitated with it for the longest time, because when I first thought about this back in the summertime, I think the reaction from a few people around me I knew and stuff was like, oh, another white guy in his 30s starting a podcast. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cliche.
But it's all about what the content is, right? Like, it's like you have podcasts that are just, It's just
Yeah.
like guys who are like sitting there talking about their lives, like pontificating. And then you have like shit like this where it's just like actually connection with things that are greater than all of us, you know, and creating a web of people that are sharing through community and consciousness and art and a city. And I think that's really beautiful. I don't know, there's a lot of story there. So yeah, I think it's a cool thing. It's the right time, and hopefully, you know, eventually we can I don't know, do it all in a room together or something.
Hopefully we can do a show together.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Let's do it. 2022.
Here we go, man. 2022. Let's get ready. Let's make it happen, man. All right, Danny, thanks so much again.
Word.
I appreciate you tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.